Today's episode brought to you by Willoughby's Shoe Repair Shop. Swing on by Willoughby's in downtown Vancouver, Washington for that old town with an E feel. At Willoughby's, we're focused on your shoes, your needs, and your feet. For an extra 10% off your next shoe cobbling, allow our staff to photograph your feet for our next catalog. What could a cobbler need a catalog for? Mind your own business. Willoughby's. We do feet. Hello, and welcome to Horror Movie Talk, an opinionated and accidentally funny horror movie review show. Your schlubby hosts each week are Bryce Hanson, the cool collected nihilist, and David Day, a sexy guy who's always #blessed. New theatrical releases always get priority, but we also review older horror movies, both good and horrible. I'm David Day.
I'm Bryce Hanson.
And at the top of the episode, we're going to plug our website, horrormovietalk.com. And you should check us out on there because we got a new guy writing blogs for us that are pretty interesting. His name's Keith. You should hit up his. You should read his latest one about zombies, fast versus slow, which are scarier. And hit us up on social media, Twitter, Facebook, that kind of stuff. Also, if you don't mind, if you're someone who wants to help us out, take our listener survey. And because it'll help us learn more about you, no matter how long you've been a listener or how frequently you listen to this show. So please just take a few minutes, visit our website at horrormovietalk.com, and you'll find the listener survey link right on the main navigation bar along the top. Also, if you're within an episode blog or anything like that, it's on the right-hand side. So yeah, complete a survey anonymously, and thank you ahead of time, and thank you to those who've already completed it. We really appreciate it. We post new podcast episodes every Wednesday, so go ahead and subscribe and leave a review on the podcast streamer of your choice, iTunes, Stitcher, all that good stuff. Today, we're going to be talking about The Killing of a Sacred Deer, which was a pretty interesting movie, I thought. Yeah. We'll start out by giving a brief review and our score for the movie. We score on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being a miserable bad movie, 5 being a totally average movie. 5 is not a bad score, it's just an average score. And 10 being a great movie that kind of transcends the bounds of just being a horror movie and is the best. Later in the episode, we're going to get into spoilers and take a deeper dive into what we liked and hated about the film. Later in the episodes, we'll be doing 2 bits. We got taglines, which is pretty much just about every episode we do taglines. Seems like you can't escape taglines.
Taglines is
a staple.
The easiest one to write for.
Right. And then we'll also be doing Name That Clip, which is transitioning in name to their clips for reasons that you'll find out later. So thanks again for listening, and let's get into the show. So as I said before, we streamed The Killing of a Sacred Deer. I streamed it on Amazon. Is that where you watched it?
Yeah.
It's free on the
Amazon Prime.
On the Prime sub.
So not technically free, but if you don't have Amazon Prime, like, what time frame do you live in?
Yeah, no kidding. Like, it's sweet, man. Especially if you got kids, or if you don't like having to shop for like toilet paper at the store because you live in fear that people know you poop.
I think I finally arrived when I started ordering kitty litter. I'm like, wow, I'm making some poor schmuck schleb my 40-pound kitty litter to my door.
God damn, that's insane.
What a life.
They deliver. Yeah. They do free shipping on kitty litter.
Yeah,
that's like free shipping on bricks.
Yeah. It's awesome.
It's the same substance.
Yeah, it's basically the one consistent thing that I order is kitty litter.
Okay.
I'm sure that loses Amazon money. That's got to cost a fortune to ship.
It's interesting. It's interesting because all the things that I purchase frequently on Amazon are also poop related. So it's like Metamucil, toilet paper. I don't really order toilet paper. That would be foolish of me because Costco is much cheaper.
Yeah.
So, back to the killing of a
Come to
sacred...
Horror Movie Review for all your shopping recommendations.
Hot shit talk. So back to the killing of a sacred deer. This movie was artsy, cold and clinical, and touched on a pretty disturbing theme that I think a lot of people will find difficult to deal with. The subject matter is this is subject matter that we've discussed on a few other movies that we've reviewed as being deeply disturbing, which is when kids are involved and things start getting really intense into the like family choices sort of scenarios. So without further ado, here's the trailer.
Good afternoon. You must be Martin.
That's right. These flowers are for you.
Thank you very much, Martin. I love roses.
The kids' rooms are amazing. So big and bright. I love this neighborhood. So quiet, clean, beautiful.
Where do you live, Martin?
We live in a not-so-nice neighborhood in a not-so-nice house.
What a charming boy. How did his father die?
A surgeon never kills a patient. An anesthesiologist can kill a patient, but a surgeon never can.
We don't have to worry about nothing. 'Cause we got the fire and we're burning one hell of a something. They're gonna see us from outer space.
I'm really sorry about Bod.
It's nothing serious.
No, it is.
Like we're the stars of the human race. Human race.
Where did you two go?
When the lights started out, they don't know what they heard. Strike the match, play it loud.
He's got issues. Serious psychological issues.
We'll be raising our hands.
Can you do something to put an end to all of
To the
this?
sky, 'cause we got the fire.
Don't be scared, Mom.
Yeah, we got
You'll
the
see.
fire.
You won't be able to move either. So
And
get
we're
used to
gonna
it.
let burn, burn, burn.
Where is she? What did you do to her?
Let it burn, 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 burn.
And I don't understand why I should have to pay the price. Why my children should have to pay the price.
Open the door! I will smash it down!
It's the only thing I can think of that's close to justice.
We can let it out, so they can put it out, out, out.
Spoopy.
Yeah, so as I said before, The Killing of a Sacred Deer can be found on Amazon Prime. I can't find it streaming anywhere else except for Google Play and probably on the iStore. Of note, we did apply for an Amazon Associates partnership, so...
If you do shop for stuff through Prime, soon you'll be able to click through our site.
Right, which
And then
which will help to support the podcast at no extra monetary cost to you.
And you can bookmark the link.
Yeah, definitely bookmark that link.
Yeah.
Once it hits, assuming it hits. Assuming we don't get rejected. I like the idea of Amazon being like, no more
thanks.
money.
Yeah.
Thanks. So The Killing of a Sacred Deer is, as far as I can tell, a modern-day retelling or rendition of the Greek tragedy of Agamemnon and Iphigenia. Agamemnon is Iphigenia's father, and he accidentally kills a sacred deer and ends up offending the gods because of it. The goddess Artemis demands that he pays for the killing with the blood of his own family as payment in what is called blood for blood. The interesting thing about this movie is that it takes a Greek myth, the story of a Greek myth or a Greek tragedy, which I think we can all kind of agree seems distant and kind of hard to relate to. Whenever you hear these kind of, well, Bryce is making faces at me, but...
Well, I mean, I'm thinking, yeah, that kind of describes this movie, too.
Yeah.
Distant and hard to relate to.
Right. So that's the interesting dichotomy that I'm setting up is it takes this distant and hard to relate to subject matter that's just like almost, Aesop begat, et cetera, and turns it into something much more relatable, which is a present day drama. But then keeps this like extremely cold, clinical, like standoffish feel throughout the entire movie. So it's a bit of a mixture is what I'm trying to say. It makes it more relatable and also harder to comprehend or relate to. Because it isn't a literal retelling of the story of Agamemnon, it becomes a unique story of its own. Killing of a Sacred Deer is, at its core, I would say, a psychological thriller. Is that do you think that's an accurate representation of it?
Yeah, it would be hard to classify this one.
Why do you say that?
Because there weren't thrills in it. There wasn't like I feel like adventure, like thrillers have kind of an adventure element, or it's like a chase or something. And this was so much just looking at something on a table. It's like a museum piece.
Yeah, it was like a museum piece, and there wasn't like actual like.
Yeah, it's hard to call it in the same way. It's hard to call it a horror movie because I mean there were horror elements, but it's not like any other horror movie.
It felt it definitely was familiar to a horror movie in that. There was a kind of a tension and a dread throughout the whole thing that was pretty. It was an important part of the movie, which was this just kind of weird, eerie, blick kind of that kind of just stayed with you through the whole thing. The acting is delivered in a way that makes you feel mildly alarmed because it's so deadpan and void of real human expression. And we're talking about like real actors here, you know, like A-list celebrities like Nicole Kidman. Although Nicole hams it up a little bit, like she almost can't contain herself. It's pretty clear that all these actors were given very explicit instructions to just be like, don't be human. Exactly.
Yeah, it's very stylized.
Yeah.
It's like Wes Anderson, but like more bland.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There's like this bleakness that pervades the whole script. Even the sets and the camera angles and the framing, they're all kind of set up to invoke like minimalism and clinical feelings. There are lots of topics that are touched on that are meant to make the viewer at the very least intrigued and usually a little bit disturbed. Lots of strange sexual undertones pervade this movie, but never really make it totally to the surface, with the exception of one or two spots. The overall effect is kind of this oily residue that kind of coats your brain with the thought of, that was awful and strange, and I want to know more about that. I think the actors did a great job of doing what they were told, which is not a great job of acting necessarily, but of being kind of puppets.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely the director's movie. This doesn't have a lot of input or a ton of interpretation from the actors themselves.
Yeah, they're not allowed to do very much with it. The actors, the movie centers around Dr. Stephen Murphy, who is played by Colin Farrell, who is a surgeon. His wife, Anna, who is Nicole Kidman, and who owns a clinic. And their two children, Kim, who's played by Raffi Cassidy, and Bob, which I think is a hilarious name for a young child, played by Sonny Suljic. A key role is that of Martin, a teenage boy whose father died in the hands of Stephen on the operating table. Young Martin has taken an interest in Dr. Murphy's profession, and Dr. Murphy obliges Martin by allowing him to do a kind of job shadowing thing when it's convenient for the doctor. Was that kind of what you got from it? Why was Martin allowed to hang around Dr. Murphy so much? Was it with the intent of learning about being a surgeon?
I mean, that's the stated reason, but I think the actual reason is the plot of the movie.
Right, because he needs to get close to him. Interestingly, Martin's mother is played by Alicia Silverstone, who has made a fabulous transition from being my teenage heartthrob to being my middle-aged heartthrob. So bravo on that, Alicia. The Killing of a Sacred Deer was directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, who did The Lobster, who also directed The Lobster, I should say, which was another A24 distribution and also starred Colin Farrell. Lanthimos and a man named Efthymis Filippo wrote The Killing of a Sacred Deer, and Efthymis is shockingly Greek. So I don't know how much that has to do with this being a Greek tragedy remade, but there you have it.
I'm pretty sure Yorgos is also Greek.
It would not surprise me.
Yeah.
I'm giving this movie an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, this is going to be one that we disagree on.
That much?
Oh, yeah. I'd give it like a 4.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Really? A 4?
Yeah. I mean, after I watched it, I was like, I'm never going to watch this again, because the whole reason of watching the movie is just basically to answer the fundamental question of what's going on, and then you find out what's going on, and then the next question is, well, what's he going to do about it? And then you find out what he does about it, and that's the end. That's literally, like, there's nothing else really going on, or nothing else that you can really draw from it, because you're not given any clues about the internal world of any of the characters or the emotions that they're feeling.
That's not. I mean, you're not wrong. That's accurate. I had a real fun time watching it.
Yeah, I got kind of bored through some of it. I mean, it's entertaining in the sense of it's quirky, and a couple of the choices that the director made. But if you're going to see one of his movies, I'd say see The Lobster. Like, there's a lot more going on in that one in terms of metaphor and satire to work off of, and in terms of, like, commenting on the social experience. Even though it's the same type of acting, it's like completely deadpan and completely matter-of-fact dialogue. But this one, there's not really a lot going on. It would have made a really great short. Like, you could have done it in a short film. Easy.
It would have made a good
20
short.
minutes.
Yeah, it would have made a good short. But I appreciate the art of this movie, which sounds like a stuck-up thing to say, but I really do. All the shots were beautiful. The casting was great. Like, there were some really disturbing scenes that made me, that piqued my interest in a lot of different ways. Like, I mean, you should transition us into spoilers, because I'm going to get into some stuff now. So, at this point, we're going to be talking about stuff that's going to give away the entire premise of the movie. So if you have any interest in watching this movie without the burden of knowing the end, maybe skip this part. So the movie opens like this is what I'm talking about when I'm saying I enjoyed the art of this movie. The movie opens with a heart, a real, live human heart. This is like trivia time. This is a shot of an actual human heart that you can see with your eyes, exposed to the open air in someone's chest on a surgery table, and it's sitting there beating. And that was pretty shocking to me. And then immediately after I went, oh, that's a human heart, with like the chest cracked open, that you can't see any of the chest cracked open, but you can see the skin pulled off of it, pulled all over the body. And
yeah, it's weird, because I would expect there to be more blood, but it was very...
You just took my thing. Like, that's my question. Where's all the fucking blood? This is a heart. Like, you just cut into a person and then exposed their heart, and there was no fucking... Like, this was the prettiest looking heart. Like, it looked like... If it hadn't been moving, it looked like it would have just been a model or a replica, like the example that you pass around class, a plastic piece, kind of. Where was all the blood? This was an actual person's heart. I don't know. And I thought that was fucking cool. Like, that was a pretty interesting thing to me. Like, it was like,
yeah, and disturbing. It's just like a weird, like,
yeah. Yeah.
Something's weird about seeing just a pulsating organ.
Yeah. And the whole movie kept that feel. Like, every part of this movie was like, why did they say that? Like, that was such an awkward thing to say. So you're saying the cold, clinical, like, feel of the movie didn't work for you really at all?
I didn't see much of a... I mean, no, I mean, I could say there wasn't much of a reason for it, but it's this director's style. It's just, it more has to do with nothing. There's not really a lot going on. It's just it's a very matter-of-fact movie. It's the setup and delivery. And I can't think of anything else that really happened significant in the movie. And maybe other stuff did happen, but the fact that it's so cold and clinical, it's like, it doesn't matter. It has no weight to it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make me feel anything. Like, there's stuff going on in terms of, like, the Martin trying to get the doctor to have sex with his mom.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
Yeah.
And there's, like, stuff of the neediness of Martin and kind of, there's probably a little bit of relationship stuff in the doctor's family between him and his wife, but it's so it's so cold that it's like, I don't care about any of this stuff.
See,
that's the drawback of it.
And simultaneously, that's specifically why it works for me, is because that, like, standoffish, cold clinical acting where it's not really acting and it's just delivering lines, it like winds me up. Like, it builds tension because I'm like, at some point somebody's gonna fucking explode.
Well, I think when it works is if there's a lot of, like, satire or kind of absurd stuff going on. The plot of the movie is absurd. Like, the entire premise of it is absurd. So that's why, you know, this director used it and does this stuff. But I mean, I think of Wes Anderson movies and, you know, even this director's other movies, and there's just a lot more going on, a lot more stuff to react to as the viewer, of saying, like, oh my gosh, that's it's ridiculous what just happened, just in terms of the world of the movie and how, and the characters and stuff. But this, yeah, I mean, if you think about, like, Life Aquatic, there's a lot of different characters in there. There's a lot of, like, different types of moments and people coming in and coming out of the movie and situations that happen in it, to where that cold clinical delivery of lines and of the world isn't distracting, because there's lots of stuff going on, and so you can kind of take it in completely neutral.
What you're talking about is charm. There is with Wes Anderson movies, and probably, I imagine, with The Lobster, there's a lot of charming shit that goes on that you can kind of go, oh, that's nice. Oh, that's nice. With this movie has zero charm. It has nothing to hang your hat on to make you feel attached or happy about. All it gives you, what it replaces charm for, is strange sexual tension.
I mean, charm, yeah, maybe, especially with Wes Anderson. Like, a lot of his visuals are kind of cutesy and, like, the miniatures and stuff.
Yeah.
But even then, the characters are rough, and there's a lot of just weird stuff going on with Yorgos Lanthimos' other movies, The Lobster in particular. I wouldn't call them charming. It's just, there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of, like, plot happening, and a lot of different characters, to where you're able to react to just the world itself. So, like, in some sci-fi movies where there's a lot of world building, it's sometimes overwhelming because you're trying to relate to the character themselves, as well as try to process the entire new world and, like, the rules. And it's like, we started watching The Expanse. Did you ever watch that?
Mm-mm.
It's a sci-fi show, and
yeah, my buddy likes that show a lot.
I couldn't get through the first episode because it was just, there was too much to process, and I just got bored. But with shows like that, if you stick around long enough,
big payoff.
It's a big payoff. Same with, like, Lord of the Rings and stuff.
Yeah.
Or Game of Thrones. But with these movies, it strips out all of the actual, like, interpreting of emotions and like character development in terms of acting, and it just is all laid out plainly in the dialogue for you, and then all you have to react to is the absurdity of the world that they're in.
And the thing that works about that for me is the story in this is extremely compelling. like the basis of the story is so compelling and so like it's so easy for me to put myself in the shoes of Dr. Murphy, where you're forced to make this choice between family members that who do you
so we talked about what the actual premise is yet?
No, we haven't gone over that yet. The actual premise of this movie is, let's see here. It centers around Martin, obviously, and who is the young boy, and his father died under the care of Dr. Murphy, Colin Farrell, while he was in surgery, and so Martin has made attempts to get closer and closer to the Murphy family. It is hinted at to essentially place a curse on them, right? And the curse goes something like this. About halfway through the movie, Martin basically sets the plague on Dr. Murphy's family, and he says, "You killed a member of my family. Now you got to kill a member of your family to balance things out. I can't tell you who to kill. That's for you to decide. But if you don't, they will all get sick and die." The curse goes a little something like this. Paralysis of the limbs comes first, so they won't be able to walk. And then they will refuse food unto the point of starvation. And then they will bleed from the eyes. Once they start bleeding from the eyes, death is hours away. And then death. So that's kind of how this whole thing goes, and it will continue that way until all three other members of your family are dead. Your wife, your son, and your daughter will all die unless you kill one of them. And that'll even things out, but that'll even out our blood debt between you and me. And so that's the basic premise of this movie. And that, to me, is extremely compelling in and of itself. Enough that sitting through it is kind of torturous,
I mean, I knew what the plot was going into it. I'm pretty sure maybe it doesn't lay it out in the trailer, but all of the chatter was about that. That it's just, he's given a choice. Either you kill one of your family members personally, or all of them die because of the supernatural curse or whatever that I'm putting on you. And it's really, really interesting. It's an interesting premise, and just the drama's all packed up tightly in that idea. But yeah, like I said, that's pretty much all that goes on for the whole movie is, well, first of all, it starts out and it doesn't tell you that. It's just this weird kid, and that you get the real sense that he's got some kind of power over Dr. Murphy, and he's hanging around, and Dr. Murphy is kind of handling him with kid gloves and trying to appease him in some way and make himself available, and much more than like a mentor relationship or something. It's very obvious that Martin has something over Dr. Murphy's head. Yeah. And then it takes until basically the middle of the movie before any one of his kids starts getting sick. And
poor Bob.
It's all the understanding is gone unsaid until the moment when Dr. Martin's talking with
Murphy.
Dr. Murphy's talking with Martin, and Martin just lays it out. Says, okay, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah, here's what's up. Yeah, well, I mean, like I went into this not knowing anything, the way I tend to do with most movies, and so for me, like it was very effective, and yeah, it was clear that there was some like at first I thought, is Martin Dr. Murphy's son, like a strange son that no one can know about? Because he's like showing up and it's clear that he like expects his attention. Mm-hmm. He expects the doctor's attention. But why? And why is it so quiet and secret? And it's because he accidentally killed his father on the operating room table. And that's compelling. And then this kid like shadows him. Like he's like
he stalks him. Yeah. I mean, he's definitely stalking him and his family.
Yeah, you catch, but it's not in like an overt way. It's in a hinted at way. It's like, a person passes in front of the camera as Dr. Murphy's walking to his car in the car garage of the hospital.
Right.
And it's like, who is that? But I mean, it's very heavily hinted at that this is a looming, ominous person. It just worked for me, I guess, where it might not have worked as much for you, or it was just too much of a one-trick pony.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, it didn't have any twists and turns. It's just so plainly laid out, and it's exactly what you would expect would happen, pretty much. Not really much surprise. The only real twist is that he attempts to kill Martin. Dr. Murphy attempts to kill Martin, and then Martin just says, like, hey, what's going to happen is if I die, all of your family's going to die instantly.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, well, there's the rub, you know?
Yeah, and the other part of it is there's a lot of symbolism. It's clear that this movie, there's a lot of weird shit that's talked about. So, like, I had so many notes on this movie because I was like, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? Why are they talking about his daughter's menstruation? Like, there's a part in this movie where the doctor sits down with his family and his coworker at like a ball, at like a doctor's ball or something like that. And so they're all dressed up to the nines. And he says to his anesthesiologist, who he works very closely with, my daughter got her first menses this week. And his coworker's like, good deal. Like, great, good for you and her. And then they just brush by it. And I'm sitting there going, what the fuck? Like, who talks about this? And then there was another point at the start of the movie, was similarly, he was talking to the anesthesiologist, and he's like, and the anesthesiologist is like, hey, that's a nice watch you got. Is it water resistant? He's like, yeah, 100 meters. That's a nice watch you got. Is that water resistant? Yep, 200 meters.
Yeah, it was a very, like, American Psycho type interchange of, like, hot business card talk, or hot, sports watch talk.
But and so I've been thinking about, like, more than anything, I've been thinking about the water depth resistance. Like, this whole time being like, what the fuck was that? Because everything in this movie is clearly meant to symbolize something, and so going back to the story of Agamemnon. So Agamemnon had to sacrifice this deer to appease the gods because he was planning to go to war with Troy. Like, he was bringing, he was going to do the Trojan horse, at Troy, at the gates of Troy. But he had to cross the sea first. And Iphigenia, or the gods, made the wind stop blowing, so he couldn't get his ships across the ocean. So he had to do this in order to get that wind blowing so he could head across the sea. So I'm thinking maybe the water depth of the ocean was like 100 meters in some spots and 200 meters in others. Or I don't know.
I think it's like you're looking too deep. That's
my favorite part about movies. Is all the things that it could mean, right?
Yeah. Yeah, my the analysis of this movie that Aaron asked me not to share.
Oh, good.
Because it would maybe offend people, but this is actually like a pretty accurate depiction to me. Is this movie depicts to the viewer what it's like to be on the autistic spectrum. Just everything is stated, and you can't understand people's motivations unless they say it, or unless there's an action that takes place, because there's just nothing to work off of. And it's like the interchange about the watches and about, menses and stuff just feels very like, we just talk about this because it's a thing. And there's no social cues of, why are you delving so deep into something that doesn't matter, or delving deep into, or bringing up stuff that's not really socially acceptable to talk about. It's because you don't understand social cues,
Well, yes, while all that is true, I think that this is based off of a Greek tragedy. There is a lot of symbolism here. And if you were to interpret it literally, yeah, this is a great example of what it may be to be a little bit on the spectrum there.
Yeah, I mean, I think like it's hard to tell what the characters are feeling about the situation at all. And then at one point, Dr. Murphy breaks up in tears, and it was so weird because I'm like, oh, I guess he cares about it, but it just has no weight behind it because there's no lead up to it. And then it's just, okay, all right, I don't know how to feel about that. I don't know. It's just weird the experience of watching the movie was so cold that it was just not engaging for me.
That's telling right there. Because I related to it very heavily. I was like, every part of this works for me pretty good. Like it scratched a lot of different itches for me because I wanted to know more. Like I dove deep into this Greek mythology thing, so deep that on my blog write-up, I link a decent amount to the story of Agamemnon and Iphigenia, and you guys should check it out because it's after you watch this movie, it all becomes a lot more interesting because you can kind of link things up to, oh, this might have meant this, or maybe they meant that. But it's yeah, I don't know. It's obviously different things to different people because Bryce and I are on two totally opposite ends of the spectrum here.
I mean, I like movies. You see, that's the thing. It's like I like movies like this. Mm-hmm. Just this one didn't work for me, just because there just wasn't enough. There was enough going on. I don't know.
Will this movie stick with you a long time?
Not really. No.
See, like it made a big impact on me because I related to it. I was like, what if someone came along and made me choose someone in my family? I always heavily as soon as you lay down an interesting premise, like a compelling premise in a movie, I latch on and then I instantly relate. I just go, let's do this. Let's bear it out to the end and see where my mind goes with it.
See, that's the thing. Like it's a missed opportunity because I would be like that if they delved a little deeper into the effects of it and what it would look like in real life. But as it was directed and as the movie was, it was no more in-depth than a thought experiment. It's like just an ethics experiment of like, okay, you're a psychology or you're a what's it called? Philosophy professor says, okay, you're put in a position where there's a speeding train and it's out of control, doesn't have brakes, and you're at the switch. One will save the train full of people, but it will kill someone that you love, and then the other way will kill all the people on the train, but save the person you love. And that's literally just the setup of this movie. And I mean, the same feelings. It's all up in my head of like, yeah, that would be an interesting dilemma, but I don't internalize it because I'm like, oh, what would I don't go that deep. It'd just be like, yeah, it would suck. I'd probably just have to kill the person that I love to save those people, you know?
What? Who would you choose?
Who would I choose?
To kill.
To kill?
Yeah.
No, it'd have to be chosen for me. I wouldn't do it.
Oh, you'd let them all die?
No, I mean, if that was like the thought experiment.
Yeah.
Kill someone that you love.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably choose my dad. He's getting old. It's like... Yeah, he's lived a full life.
It's not part of this.
Yeah.
No, this is your immediate nuclear family within this house.
Oh, my immediately nuclear family?
Yeah. You don't have to answer that, but we can wink at each other.
Right.
Oh, okay. Wow.
I'm making no indication.
He blinked a lot.
But yeah, I mean that's the deal. It's like this movie presents a thought experiment, and then it doesn't make you go through it any more than just say, like, well, this is a hard choice to make, but you gotta make it.
Yeah. And the way that Dr. Martin or Dr. Murphy decided to choose was by not choosing, kind of, in a strange way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was probably the most interesting part of the movie, is his process of like, okay, I gotta confront this, and then he starts like interviewing the school counselor.
Yeah, he's
and,
like, how
talking to
good are
people.
my kids?
Yeah.
Which one would you say is better?
Which one shows, like, would you say, the most promise?
And even the principal's like, I don't know how to answer that exactly, because you know,
he just says, I couldn't tell you that. It's like, damn it. Like, he doesn't get any help in terms of how to choose.
And then they all start like, then it becomes like a competition in the family. It's the fucking most disturbing competition I've ever seen, which is who loves daddy more. And like the little girl and the little boy will be like, so they're both paralyzed in a bed in the same room. And at one point, Kim, the little girl, says to Bob, she's like, you know, he's just going to have to make a choice here shortly, and he just doesn't have that much time into you, you know? So, I mean, it's going to suck when you go, and, I mean, you got this whole thing first, so if he doesn't choose anyone, you're going to be the first to go. So, in closing, in summation, can I have your MP3 player when you die? Please, can I have your MP3 player when you die? Bob, answer me. Can I have your MP3 player when you die? And then Bob's like, fucked up. He's like, oh god, Dad. So he's like, so he drags his little paralyzed ass out of bed and tries to do the dishes or something. Like, he's like, Dad, I gotta put away my toys. And his dad's like, no man, you gotta sit down in bed. And he's like, I gotta do this because I gotta be a good person.
Yeah, trying to curry his favor. Yeah, that was the most interesting part about the movie.
Yeah,
it's just the dynamics of what the characters do in relation to realizing their position. But that comes pretty late. That's like towards the end of the movie.
Yeah, it's the last third.
Yeah, let's delve into this, and this will give my cards away, or maybe. But if you were put in this position, who would you choose?
I just asked you that question.
I know.
I'm not answering. That's ridiculous. Because quite frankly, I mean, until you're put into that scenario, you can't really. Even when you're in that scenario, you can't really give an honest honest answer. I don't believe. Because
to me, it would be. I mean, it's got to be the wife, right?
Well, that's so. But I have an interesting scenario because my wife's pregnant right now. Like,
well, yeah, that doesn't. I mean, if you're in this position, if your choice was Nicole Kidman or these two kids, man, if you were the character, who would you choose? And to me, it's obvious. Like, well, yeah, it's Nicole Kidman, right?
I mean,
the wife.
I think so, but on the other side of that, like, I'm not sure. Like, if I had to kill any of them, I think I'd end up killing myself as well. I think I'd probably kill myself if I had to kill one of my family members. And so, if I killed my wife and then myself, there'd be no one left to. If they were little kids like this, there'd be no one left to make sure the kids were okay. Whatever remained of them, you know. So this is like the fucking worst scenario I can imagine. That's what makes it so compelling.
That's the other thing. If you were put in this position, wouldn't you just have a family council and decide together? Just be like,
oh man, but then y'all got to live with that. Everybody, and that's the thing is either way you're damning your family like 100%.
No, in that circumstance, everyone would be on board though.
Yeah,
it would suck
for that minute, but then they'd all become addicts or they'd kill themselves. Like no one's getting out of this really alive. Like this scenario is going to end poorly no matter what happens.
Well, yeah, it's a terrible situation, but where's the biggest downside and where's the biggest upside? Well, upside, there's no upside, but
right. I mean, trying to
just
mitigate.
in terms of just looking at like the kids have a full life to live.
It's true.
The adults have lived a longer life. The kids aren't babies. They don't need parents anymore, really.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at it as a cost-benefit analysis, like purely, and that's kind of what you'd need to do, yeah, the kids should probably live. On the other hand, I'm It would. Oh man, if I killed my wife, I'd kill myself. Like I imagine that's.
Well, no, you wouldn't, because you'd have your daughter to take care of. You wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, it's a super brutal concept that I'm impressed that
it's a self-chosen tragedy in
Right.
your family,
Right.
Which would add to it. But I mean, people have tragedies in their family. Parents die, and the other parent moves on,
Yeah.
and so yeah, that yeah, it would be it's a very hard decision. I mean, it's also, I mean, the other movie that I haven't seen is Sophie's Choice, which presents, I think it's Meryl Streep, and it's during the Holocaust or something, and she has to choose between her kids which one survives.
Yeah.
So
That's right.
the choice, the dilemma is not unique to this movie.
No, I think I mean, it's a Greek myth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's super compelling. You know, the other thing this movie has is the most disturbing scene involving spaghetti that I've ever seen.
Yeah, there's a couple moments where this type of direction really works, and that was one of them.
Yeah, where Martin is sitting down with Nicole Kidman to tell her about what was he telling? He's telling her about how he ate spaghetti he thought he ate spaghetti just like his dad.
Yeah.
And he's got this big fucking plate of spaghetti, and it's almost like he's building up a sweat.
Yeah.
Like he's building up a sheen while eating this spaghetti. He's like, I always just thought I ate spaghetti like my dad.
Well, he's just like, yeah, I was trying to find things that, well, I don't know if he said that, but he's like, learned that I eat spaghetti just like my dad. I put my fork in it, in the spaghetti, and then I twirl it around on the plate, and then I pick it up and eat it like this. It just puts like half a plateful in his mouth, and then he just
And
goes.
she's like, she's doing what any normal person would do watching this, being like, what the hell is going on?
And then he just goes, and then I learned that's how everyone eats spaghetti. That was a great moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple good moments in this. I'm not gonna say it's a bad movie, but in terms of like recommendations, it's definitely a movie that you can skip. It's not a must see for me.
I see, yeah, and I mean that's him. I mean, if you're anything like me, you gotta see it.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, two stone cold foxes in this movie. Alicia Silverstone, who is regretfully not in it very much, but she goes to some extreme lengths to try to seduce Dr. Murphy, including sucking on all his fingers. And he reacts to it as someone who is on the spectrum might. And Nicole Kidman, multiple times in this movie, so it's revealed that Dr. Murphy can't, like his kink is... Prepare yourself. He likes it when people have been placed under general anesthesia, aka knocked out completely. He doesn't act on this in the movie on a patient, but obviously that's where he got the kink. And Nicole Kidman is happy to oblige, and just when it's time to make happy at night, she just lays down on the bed and goes limp.
Yeah, that's a major takeaway from this movie, is that Nicole Kidman has still got a banging body.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
She's very pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get to see her in underwear. So that's
and topless from a distance.
Oh.
I mean, if we're going to go whole Mr. Skin on this.
Yeah. We're not. Oh, I guess we did. Oh yeah, there was another weird, just one last, super disturbing thing in this story that I think everyone will forget, because you haven't mentioned it. But there's this part where Colin Farrell, Dr. Murphy, is he's had it with Bob. Bob is in the hospital and he just won't walk, and Colin Farrell doesn't want to believe that this curse is real, and so he picks Bob up and like starts dangling around like a marionette. And Bob's just like, he's getting tossed around and he feels bad, and Colin Farrell's like, look, kid, like let's play secrets. Like, you want to, like, I'm going to share a secret with you and you share a secret with me. And the secret that you're going to share with me is that you can really walk. Okay. But here's my secret to you. When I was a little kid, I walked up on my dad, who was asleep in bed, and I touched his wiener until he came. Okay, you go. And I was like, what the fuck? What's happening? There was a lot of moments like that were just like, what the fuck is going on? What are they talking about?
Yeah.
And a lot of fixation on like male body hair.
Yeah, just a lot of weirdness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah.
So then the end, he makes a choice, and I'm not going to tell you how. So you're going to have to watch the movie now.
You already told him that he doesn't make a choice.
He makes a choice to not make a choice.
Right.
Even when you choose, that's a choice. Even when you choose not to choose, that's a choice, Bryce. So final recommendations, who do you think would like this movie?
If you like quirky movies, if you really like Wes Anderson and just can't get enough of that type of movie, if you've liked this director's other movies, if you like Dogtooth or The Lobster, if you really like them, you should see this one. If it was just like, okay, then you can skip this one.
If you like American Psycho, you'll like this movie, I'd say. It has a similar vibe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, for me, it's an 8 out of 10. For Bryce, it's a 4.
Yeah.
So big split on that. So with that, we're going to transition into taglines. Here's taglines. So, interesting thing about this movie is it was given no taglines out the box. So, these taglines that we're coming up with are the only, to my knowledge, the only taglines that exist for the movie. Mm-hmm. So, you're welcome, The Killing of a Sacred Deer.
How many you got?
I got 3.
Okay, I got 4. Killing of a Sacred Deer. It's not a sacrifice if you're already dead inside.
The Killing of a Sacred Deer. The best segue ever to get your parents to pick a favorite.
Killing of a Sacred Deer. A movie on the spectrum.
Oh, yeah. That is poor taste.
What?
The Killing of a Sacred Deer. How much hair do you have down there? Like I said, there's a lot of fucking weird talk about, like, do you have any pubes yet? Let me see under your arm.
I've heard tell that you have 3 times as much arm hair as I have. Let's see it. Show me your armpit hair.
Yeah, that's a lot, but I wouldn't say 3 times. That's actually in the movie.
Yep. Killing of a Sacred Deer. Sophie's Choice, without the human emotion.
The Killing of a Sacred Deer. What about Bob 2? The Untimely End of Bob. You remember that movie with Richard Dreyfuss and who was his name?
Bill Murray?
Yeah, Bill Murray. Thank you.
Killing of a Sacred Deer. Do you understand? It's metaphorical. My example, it's a metaphor. I mean, it's symbolic.
I don't get it at all.
That's a quote from the movie. That's something that Martin says to...
It's metaphorical.
Yeah. It's metaphorical.
Yeah, Martin was the king of saying weird shit. Like, he showed up at Nicole Kidman's front door with a bouquet of roses, and he's like, I know that orchids are your favorite flower, but I couldn't find a bouquet of orchids, and I was like, those don't fucking exist at all. Like, you couldn't find those because those don't exist. Orchids are live all the time. Do you have more?
Nope, that was it.
That was it. Okay, and with that, we're going to be moving into another bit called Their Clips. Clips.
It worked out really well.
Yeah, it worked out.
I like that.
So this is a game where I've prepared 5 audio clips from horror movies for Bryce, and he has to guess the movie and the scene that it came from. So there's 2 points available for each clip. So play along and let us know how you did on our blog post at horrormovietalk.com. So
Clip 1.
Wouldst thou like to see the world?
No, yeah.
What will you from me?
Dost thou see a book before thee?
Well, that one's easy. That's the witch, and that's the last scene after all her family's dead and the devil is talking to her through Black Phillip.
You got to give the audience a little bit of time, like a skosh.
Too bad.
Okay, fair enough. 2 points for that one. That's accurate. That came from the witch at the very end.
Wanna play hide and clap?
Yeah, go ahead. You want to play hide and clap?
Hide and clap.
This is from... You need some help? A little bit of help?
Yeah, give me a clue.
This is from a jump scare laden movie.
Is it in the Conjuring universe? It feels very Conjuring.
Yeah.
Let's say Conjuring 2, because I haven't seen that one. And it's the scene where a girl says, "We want to play hide and clap."
Well, the second one is that wouldn't get you a point anyway. But no, this is from The Conjuring, the first one.
Oh, is it?
Yes, and this is the one where this is the part where the mother is hearing claps throughout the house at night. And so she's walking around, and then she hears, and then a door opens, and it's the door to the cellar, of course. Mm-hmm. And she heads in there, and the door slams behind her, and she falls down into the cellar, and a little ball comes out, and then she's so the scene that you actually watched, listened to, I should say, she's lighting a match, and then it gets blown out, and then she lights it again, and these pair of hands come right out next to her face, and clack, clack.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was in the trailer, too. All right.
Clip 3.
You guys, going camping? Hey. Now look, we don't want any trouble, all right? So just back off. Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, God, I've seen this movie. I'm trying to remember.
Guys, going camping? He's having such a good time.
Oh, God, what is it?
You guys, going camping? Hey. Now look, we don't want any trouble, all right? So just back off. Okay, I'm sorry.
Is that Tucker and Dale versus Evil?
Yeah.
So that must be early on in the movie. like when
Yeah,
they're on the boat or something like that. It's before anything happens.
Yes, yeah. I'll give that both those points too. Yeah, it's when they're at the gas station and he walks up. That swinging, that like sheathing sound of metal is the
scythe or whatever.
Right, he has that scythe and he's walking up to these hot girls and he's like, I don't have a chance with these girls, and Tucker's like, go on, just talk to him. You just got to talk to him. And so he walks up with this scythe and he's like, you guys going camping? Just act natural.
That's such a great movie.
That is a great movie. If you guys are in the mood for like a horror, like comedy, like primarily just a comedy.
Yeah. Don't look up anything about it. Just go watch it.
It's a great movie.
Track 4.
Jesus wept.
Okay, I just watched this movie, so
I know.
It's Hellraiser.
Yeah.
And it's like towards the very end, if it's not just the very end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, this is the part where the Cenobites come out and...
Oh, that's right. They like tear him apart.
Yeah, they're all standing around him and all the fish hooks on chains come out and they're all like... He's all bound up by... His entire body is covered in chains that are pulling his skin apart, and he says, Jesus wept.
Out of all the 80s horror movies that I've watched...
Yeah.
The special effects on this, like that very 80s type of special effects where everything's gooey, and just bloody and like all those sounds and those special effects. This was the most effective. Like I was so disturbed by this, I could not. There's something about it that I couldn't just go like, oh yeah, that's latex, like that's just blood and stuff. Something about Hellraiser just went so far above and beyond the realism of this grossness.
Yeah, Clive Barker's, all his movies have that kind of like, it's a gross feeling that comes with it. That's just like, I wish I didn't see that kind of almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew you had watched that movie recently. See, the trick with these things is they need to be well known enough. These clips are kind of hard to grab.
Yeah.
Because they need to be well known enough that people in the audience stand a chance and that you stand a chance. And those are two, so it has to be kind of a well known thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Here's clip 5.
Man, game over, man. It's game over.
Do it again.
Game over.
Man, game over, man. It's game over.
Yeah, this is Aliens.
Uh-huh.
Bill Paxton. Gosh, what just happened to where it was game over? I don't know. I mean, what did happen that he reacted to that? A bunch of people died.
Yeah.
And
a bunch of people died.
Did their truck break or something like that?
Yeah,
like
they lost. I believe they lost their atmospheric transporter, so they lost the ship.
Right.
I'll give you half a point on that one. So Bryce got 5, 6, 7.5 points. Damn, that's pretty good. How'd you guys do? Let us know at horrormovietalk.com on the post for this episode. All right, guys. So with that concludes our episode of Horror Movie Talk. Thank you for listening. And as always, check us out on our website, horrormovietalk.com. Hit us up on social media. Take our audience survey, which is on horrormovietalk.com, if you want to help us out. And, as always, share our episodes if you can. We really appreciate it. It's one of the only ways that we can grow our audience. And we are growing, so we really appreciate it. And you guys have a great rest of your day or night.